Hi guys, what's going on, and welcome back to another video on Conquerors Blade. As today we're going to be digging into the new Mercenary units that have been added in to the tech trees. So this kind of caught me a little bit by surprise. I wasn't expecting these to get added in on Friday. I guess we knew a little bit about them because obviously we knew they were in Frontier on the Asian version. But I hadn't expected them to come across quite so soon. And a lot of people have been kicking off about them, a lot of unhappy people looking by the official Discord. And I just kind of wanted to give my 2 cents on them and kind of just to see sort of where we are and what's with them. So first off, I mean, I'd rather they hadn't introduced them. It's not such a great surprise. Almost every game with unit tech trees like this has sort of premium units, from World of Tanks to those who remember Total War Arena that had them as well. So they all tend to have sort of premium units, so it's not a great surprise that they've added them in. And then I think the main things that we have to be concerned about are strength of the unit, how much they cost for the real money, and how accessible they are for people in the game, how easy they are to get hold of. So the units themselves, are they overpowered? Not really, not tier for tier wise, they're not. So let's just take a look. For example, the Black Dragon Pikemen, I think these are one of the more expensive ones. And if we have a look at the stats, you know, they're not that great. They have 1,000 damage, but it's pretty similar damage amounts to something like the Pike Militia, something like that, or a Prefecture Pikeman. They don't get a brace ability. They do get a nice charge, and looking at the veterancy bonuses, we see that somewhere along here. Charge damage increase 30%, and then there was another one somewhere. Yeah, another 30% there. So they get a 60% charge damage increase. So I suspect they're going to handle quite a lot like the Prefecture Pikeman. So we can see these guys here. And yeah, these start off with a higher amount of base damage, piercing damage, just from the start, and that's without the veterancy bonuses yet upgraded. Because the veterancy bonuses that you see on these guys here, these are already applied to the stats. Look at that, they made an error there. 3 out of 2. Oops. Screw up. So yeah, they've already been applied because I've tested this, because if we take a look at the Black Dragon Archers, these are a feudal era unit, quite a low down unit. You'll see their stats, their piercing damage 775, and this gets a bonus out from the piercing damage. There's a damage increase. Is there an armor penetration increase? Well, let's look at the damage then. It's 2%, so there's a 6% damage increase, and they're 1423. And you can show, so it's showing already the veterancy bonuses applied. And then if we hop over to my barracks for the actual unit, you'll see it's 1423 with the bonuses already applied, and they're already level 20, you see. So the veterancy bonuses are showing in the tech tree are already applied. So even though they tell you, yes, they're level 20, yes, I guess they are, but, you know, it's the bonuses for that have already been applied. So it's kind of like they've just stacked it as a pre-existing unit. So it's like a fully upgraded unit already. So tier for tier, they aren't really overpowered. They're less than what you'd expect from an equivalent unit. So that's really important. I'm really pleased they've at least managed to do that. You know, I'd rather they hadn't introduced them at all, but at least they've managed to introduce them as a lower tier unit. I guess the one thing we have to be careful of is what we're comparing them to. So, for example, you know, you could go out and say buy some Black Dragon Spearmen or buy some Black Dragon Pikemen, but would you be taking in Silver Era units into a siege battle if you had to pay the full kit cost? Because you might be losing bronze. And now, obviously, because these guys don't lose kits, they supply themselves, which is obviously one of their main benefits, is the fact they're free to use effectively, and they give you these bronze and experience bonus. Then you might be taking a higher tier unit than you otherwise would have done. So I think that's a point to note. You've got to be a little bit careful of that. But having said all that, they are only 3.5 star units. It doesn't take very long to get to something like a Prefecture Pikeman, even for new players. So, nah, I'm not sure it's necessarily too much of an argument there. At least they're not heroic or golden era. Otherwise, I think that would be very overpowered if you could just buy straight into the top tier units. At least that's just sort of mid tier, which is a nice thing. And they certainly wouldn't stack up to something like a Prefecture Guard. So, the other things to consider were, they've offered them for sale not only for sovereigns, say 2,900 sovereigns, but also for silver, which is just what I brought my Black Dragon Archers with this morning. So that is kind of a good thing. I've not really encountered many games yet that offer premium units for silver. If you look at something, to use the World of Tanks analogy all the time, but if we compare them to World of Tanks, You know, you don't really get that option. The only other things they have is like the marathon grinds, where you can not unlock them over like a month. But yeah, the silver cost isn't excessive. It's actually pretty reasonable. The Black Dragon Archers, only a feudal era unit, but 250,000 silver. Well, I've still got 300,000 silver, so I had about 550,000 because I've already brought the Black Dragon Archers this morning. And I don't play actually that hard. I don't grind that hard because I spend all the time pretty editing videos. I don't actually get to play the game that much. So I'm able to build up a reasonable amount of silver pretty quickly. So I think if you play the game at any decent amount, it's not that unreasonable to be getting something like the Black Dragon Archers. If you're really careful about selling all your equipment and trying to break everything down, get everything on the market, then I think trying to afford the most expensive one, the Pikeman, which was 700,000 silver, is not that crazy. It's certainly it wouldn't be not easy, but it's not that crazy. And the lower ones, like the Black Dragon Archers, should be pretty easy to get hold of. And remember, because the buffs don't stack in game, there's only really any point in having one unless you particularly want to play the unit for its combat abilities. Then the buffs don't stack. So if you take your Black Dragon Archers in, you're going to get your 10% increase to heroes, 10% increase to bronze, 10% increase to honor. Taking a second Black Dragon unit makes no difference to that. There's no discernible benefit from doing that. So, yeah, so that's kind of my overall feeling. Would rather they hadn't have done it in the first place, but I think, given what they have done so far, isn't too bad. The units aren't overpowered. They're relatively accessible. They're very expensive in Sovereigns. If you want to buy them, particularly some of the more expensive ones for Sovereigns, are actually really quite steep. 4,900 Sovereigns is really quite a lot, particularly when you compare the fact that the silver cost isn't that high. So, yeah, quite expensive to buy for real money, not too expensive to buy for in-game money, I don't think, and not too overpowered. So, generally, I'm okay with it for now. Things I think they've got to be really, really careful of, though, are power creep for future units. Inevitably, I would have thought they're going to be introducing new premium units going forwards. Once these things start, they're just going to start and stop with these 5, I shouldn't have thought. And the risk is that on the next ones they release, they want to make them a little bit better than the Black Dragon ones. So they sell, and, you know, obviously you get that power creep coming in, which happens a lot with a lot of games. They've got to be super, super careful to not have that start coming in. Because if it starts to creep up to be the equivalent of the tech tree units, that's when it really becomes pay to win for me. So, yeah, not ideal, but could be a lot worse, so I'm not completely put out of it by it quite yet. Anyway, that's just my thoughts. Really interested to hear what you guys think in the comments down below. As always, you know, always get back to you, always try and reply to all the comments, and it's really nice because it gives me a perspective on what the community thinks on things like this, because obviously this is just my 2 cents, this is what I think on them. So, yeah, be sure to let me know in the comments down below. Obviously, I'm sure you already have, but be sure to subscribe to the channel for lots more Conquerors Blade content, and I shall see you guys hopefully with a slightly more action-packed video rather than just me talking for 10 minutes video on the next time. See you later, guys.